What's up, people? So today I'm making a little tutorial about bassline styles and how to write a bassline, how to choose the sound you want to use for your bassline, and yeah, different styles of it. And to do that, we're going to analyze 3 popular tracks and try and recreate them, and go in and analyze what makes a good bassline. The first one is going to be How We Do by CID Joshwa, in case you haven't heard it yet. Really nice percussive bass line. The second one is El Cuervo by Endor. And there you go, if you haven't heard it yet. Really groovy and dirty one. And the third one will be About You by Sonny Fodera Biscits. Let's take a listen. A nice roller. Who doesn't like it? Um, yeah, let's go and see what I did. So for the first bass line, I tried doing like the usual invert phase thing, but it wasn't working real well. So what I did to figure out the pattern, I went in and basically chopped up the whole segment here every time I saw a hit in the waveform. And then I went in and figured out which ones were bass hits, which one were kick claps, hats, or whatever. And if you take these, Command J, consolidate, and drag it into a MIDI channel, you're gonna get a MIDI of the audio you put in. It's not gonna be like crazy precise, but you can get pretty close, I think. So after I did that, what did I do? Oh yeah, I resampled the thing, whatever. It's the same stuff here. I just put a filter on, I think. Yeah. And yeah, I have the beat here just to make sure everything sounds alright. And once we have a pattern to follow and we get like the tone of the bass, we know what it sounds like basically. Of course, it's all cut up. It's not gonna sound like that at the end, but yeah, it's just to understand the rhythm of the bass line, get a good example of the groove, and figure out some stuff. Um, if you go into the second part here, you can see that I have my beat straight from the track. We'll make another tutorial on drums another day. And then I have my bass line. What did I do to get my bass line? I basically just lined up my audio thing. I figured out which note was playing by using the EQ here, Melodyne. You can pretty much see the notes playing is F. What the bassline is a tom. Put it in the simpler, like Moose explains in his tutorial. We have an R bass, boosting 87 hertz, which is F1, I think, and 44, which is F0, basically the sub and the first harmonic. We're boosting them with the R bass, and some EQ, compressor. Not sure what that is doing because I'm not using it for sidechain. I don't have a trigger kick. Yeah, I'm missing some sidechain. Let's put it on kickstart. Let's just keep things simple for this tutorial. Yeah, I think this should be all right. Some saturation in here. And yeah, we pretty much have a baseline now. Which works pretty fine. I mean, it's a nice percussive bass line. So what are the main takeaways from this kind of bass line? I would take a look at the kind of patterns we have playing. We can kind of divide the bass line in two sections here, section 1 and section 2 in the first bar. We have the first half, which is like just two notes, not much is going on, and then the second part we have a lot of notes. So we have a call and response. Not much going on, a lot going on. Tension, release. And yeah, I think that's really important. As you can see, a lot of groove going on. If we put this on the grid, this is gonna sound really stiff. It's still fine. It's not great. Gets gets much more interesting when you apply the groove. I would say that's it for this kind of bass line. Okay, next up we got El Cuervo by Endor, which is quite a different bass line, more melodic, I'd say, a bit darker in tone. Let's take a quick listen. Okay, you got the idea. First of all, we take the beat, we invert the phase. Let me see the channel, the utility. We sample these and we get the bass line basically. Okay, once we've done that, we can go to the second phase, which is recreating it. And I just copied over the pattern, line it up with the grid because it wasn't lined up before. Recreated the MIDI. The MIDI, you can take a look. It's quite simple, but we can take a few things from it. First of all, we have direction. We start from F here, and we end up in D, I think. And this gives the bass line like a moody character, I would say. It goes down and goes back up, and it's super groovy in the middle. And yeah, let's take a look at the swing, which is really important. This bass line is super swingy, I'd say. And there are even swung these notes here in the middle, which are usually not swung. The eighth note, I usually just do the 16th, but if it sounds good, it sounds good. And yeah, we got this first note here opening the pattern, then we have these two here, which basically repeat. But the interesting thing is that they're not placed in the same spot in the bar. This should start here, instead starts here. That creates like, I'm not sure about the name. I think it's polyrhythm. You're basically creating a second rhythm inside your main rhythm. A repetition which is not every bar, but it's shorter. And these two notes act as the closure for this polyrhythm. But yeah, you get the idea. So another important thing is the groove. A lot of groove. The eighth note has swung. The 16th note has swung. And another important thing that we can notice from the audio is the side chain, which is quite long. You can say we cover basically our whole eighth note, almost 3/4 of it, I'd say, which gives the bass line this pumping effect, which is really nice. Let's take a look into how I recreated the bass. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for this video, I think. So yeah, as same as before, we have the beat here and we have the bass here. The bass is composed by two layers. This first one here and this second one here. Which kind of which is some kind of percussion just to give some notes some attack, which I noticed the original had. You can either do it this way or go in and work on the preset. I find layering is much easier and accessible to beginners, so I would say just layer your shit. Let's take a look at how I made it. This is a preset from Saboom Bass. It's basically just a clean bass. Let's deactivate all the processing so you can hear what it sounds like before. It's basically a bass, a normal bass. Um, let's turn off everything and turn it on one by one so you can see what I'm doing. So first thing, our bass again. Done at 32 Hz because I noticed that the kick in this track is quite high, around 50 Hz, as its lowest like peak. You can take a look. You can see the kick is peaking at 55 Hz, while the bass line is peaking way more down. See, it's around 30 Hz, its lowest point. And so I needed to add some sub to this regular bass, and our bass is great because it basically creates more harmonics to the frequency you choose, and 31 point something hertz is the tonal for B, if I recall correctly. So yeah, that's why it's there. And we have a compressor again. Not sure what this is doing. Nothing probably. It's just my basic setup I have for every audio channel. We have some amp. Just to give it some grit. We have an EQ. Just to make sure we don't have any content here, we don't need that. We have some parallel distortion. Pretty low in volume. What I did is I basically created two chains, one with the drum bus and then a filter, and one with nothing, just an EQ which is doing nothing. We got shaper box for side chaining, should be at the end of the chain actually. And this EQ here, it looks quite weird. The reason I put that EQ there like that is I used the span to figure out what the original bassline was looking like, and I tried to get it closer with an EQ. Okay, so this is the original bassline, this is my bassline. It's not exactly the same, but they're quite similar in content, so it's good. Let's take a look at the percussive layer. Again, it's another preset from Saboom Bass. It's, I don't know, some kind of percussion. I basically copied the channel, deactivated all the things I didn't need, unlike the heavy amp still, and some EQ so that I don't get too much point from the percussion. I just want some mid-low punch and shaper box for the sidechain, and that's it. I think it's pretty decent. Let's take a look at the last one. The last one, About You by Sonny Fodera Biscits. I did the same thing. I took the beat from the intro, inverted the phase, got the bass line. I put a filter on it and rendered it here, and I went on to recreate it. This is the rendered bass line, and this is the bass MIDI, which I recreated basically lining up the notes with the ones I have here. And this is the result. Quite close in style, not exactly the same sound, but let's take a look at MIDI and then we'll take a look at the patches. This is the MIDI, and you can see it's a one note bass line, pretty standard. And what can we say about these? There isn't much going on, to be honest. Just a bunch of eighth notes, and here are more like syncopated pattern, and it repeats itself. I think the thing that makes it interesting, that brings it to the next level, is this other element here, which plays every every 2 bars, which is basically a square stub. Um, and the interaction between the two makes it interesting, because if we only had like the rolling bass line, I think it would be quite boring. We What's going on? I mean, it's fine, but it's not that interesting. Let's add the second element. It adds another layer of complexity, some ambience with the reverb, and a different tone to the track. So I think it's cool, and that's what makes it interesting. This is like a nice demonstration that you don't need to get like super melodical and do some crazy shit to get a nice bass line. Just get a note, get a rhythm that works, and work on what stays around it. And you're gonna get some pretty good results if this is what you're going for. Um, for the bass patch, let's take a look what I did. Um, Now this is the second layer. This is the first one. I'm not a sound designer, so what I do is I flick through presets and look for something that sounds similar to what I want and then work on it. So what I did was I went to my deceiver packs, found a bass that I liked and did some processing to it, which is basically just an EQ, to be honest. I like the overall tone, but I don't need all this stuff here. That's it. Some sidechain. I tried to do some parallel distortion. I didn't like it, so I turned it off. And we have a second layer here. To add some more character. Again, another preset. Yeah, compressor, which is doing nothing, as always. My kickstart. And on the bass, we have again this weird EQ, which is there for the same reason as the other one. I was trying to mimic the tone of the bass with the EQ. Yeah, that's it. For the stub, I use this rave generator because I remembered I had this sound here, which is quite similar to the original, not the same. And yeah, what this is basically, it's a sampler with a bunch of old school stabs and all kind of sounds really. And I just put the MIDI note in. That's it. EQ, some reverb and delay, and sidechain, and we're good. So, to recap what we went over during this tutorial, there is, I think, two important things about a bassline when it comes to writing it, which is direction and rhythm. You need to understand and to decide where your bassline is going. Is it going just to be thumping away, so one note? Is it going to have a melody? In that case, you need to have a direction for the melody. And the other part is the groove. We've seen all of these bass lines have some kind of groove going on, so don't don't have your notes stick to the grid too much. Don't be afraid of swinging them. Other things, to create interesting pattern, alternate pairs, and really busy patterns to create a call and response effect. Um, and I would say that's it. There's not much to add. If you wanna study more bass lines. I show you how you can go and do it yourself. And I think it's really useful to know what you're going for and what you're doing before you maybe try and do a track. So do some prep work before you go into a track and try make a new sound, because if you don't know how to make the new sound, you will waste a lot of time trying to actually achieve the sound, but then you'll feel uninspired. And you won't want to go on with the track. And so doing this kind of session, doing some prep work every now and then is really useful. And I think everyone should try and do that, because you get better as a producer, because you'll know what you're doing and what you should do to get a result. And with that said, I think that's it for today. And I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, as always, drop them in the Ask Questions section. And see you next time. Bye.